It's something completely different to the story we've just been covering there. An image has emerged of convicted pop paedophile Gary Glitter browsing a smartphone, and perhaps more alarmingly, footage has been obtained by the son of the pop paedophile asking about access to the dark web. Now, it's reportedly sparked a furious reaction from his victims and has raised many questions about the decision to release Gary Glitter after he had served only half of his 16-year sentence for historical sexual abuse of 3 girls. Catherine Hallesley is a senior associate in the abuse team at Hugh James Solicitors, and she joins me now. Look, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. I mean, I was deeply alarmed by this, and I think a lot of people will be surprised, A, that Gary Glitter had been released, but we covered that at the time, B, that he has access to a smartphone, and C, that he can apparently use that to scour the dark web.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is frankly terrifying, not just for the public and the risk that he poses to the public and to children, but also horrifying for the victims that he's perpetrated abuse upon. In my view, he should be immediately recalled to prison.
On that, I mean, look, we obviously are not privy to the exact conditions of Gary Glitter's release, but one would imagine, Kathleen, that convicted sex offenders, certainly of the ilk of Gary Glitter, should probably be banned from accessing the internet and certainly the dark web. Would you have not thought that was something they should do?
I mean, I would think that that would be pretty obvious. I know that certainly mobile phones are provided to offenders when they're released, and I think that that's fairly reasonable, but it doesn't mean that he needs to have a smartphone. In fact, there's no reason that he couldn't have some simple kind of throwaway pay-as-you-go or brick phone, so to speak, as it's often called. And he absolutely should not have a smartphone. And frankly, they should be restricting and monitoring, as I hope they're doing, any type of access that he has to the internet whatsoever.
Yeah, I've got 2 further questions for you on this. I will ask, I think, maybe the most emotive one first, which is about victims, okay? And when victims see images of Gary Glitter being released and on a phone and having some jovial conversation about accessing the dark web, I mean, I think it's quite a straightforward idea as to what kind of material he might want to look at. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just use the internet, right? So how does it make abuse victims feel? Because I think it looks as though they're just completely ignored in all of this, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that really hasn't been the focus of what we're talking about here. I mean, first of all, he was released only halfway through his sentence, and I wonder what kind of message that sends to not only the victims in this situation, but in all cases, in terms of how seriously the criminal justice system takes their complaints of abuse. And one of the other points that I would make is that being sexually abused as a child is really a lifelong sentence. And that doesn't appear to be a sentence that Gary Glitter is suffering.
No, it doesn't at all, actually, does it? And can I just ask you a question finally? Look, I know that you deal in this particular area of law a lot and in the abuse team, and it does open up this question, which was being asked when Gary Glitter was released early, and it's asked every time people, say, like Colin Pitchfork, for example, are allowed out, which is, do you think that child sex offenders can actually in any way be rehabilitated? Or are we always asking for trouble by allowing them out, basically?
I think it's a really complicated question, and it certainly depends on the level of offender. I think the most serious and prolific offenders are not.
Oh, no, OK. Unfortunately, we've lost Kathleen there. But there we go. We were coming to the end of that interview anyway. Kathleen Hallesley there, who is a senior associate at the abuse team at Hugh James Solicitors. Look, I saw the article over the weekend, which was Gary Glitter appeared to be looking for things on the dark web, etc. And I think it will anger a lot of people, that really, who possibly didn't think that they should have been released anyway. And realistically, what's he looking at on the dark web? I believe we might be able to go back to Kathleen, actually. Kathleen is, yes, sorry about that. Thank you very much. You were answering the question as to whether or not you feel as though people like Gary Glitter can be rehabilitated. No, we're just going to leave it, OK? All right. That's all right, don't worry. Sorry, Kathleen, your audio's wrong. I know. Apologies about all this. Kathleen Hallesley there, who's senior associate in the abuse team at Hugh J Solicitors. Right, look, loads of you have been getting in touch. I'm going to delve into the world of my inbox now, gbviews@gbnews.uk. The vast majority of you are still getting in touch about the old Gary Lineker episode. Just to bring you up to date on that, as we